Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, we're going to be up-leveling our card making with advanced shape edge cards. If you haven't already, check out my previous video where we designed these two cards in Cricut Design Space. So these cards follow the shape of the SVG around the side to make something really special. But I thought we can go one step further, and that's what this video is all about. So the card we're going to be making is this one, which is quite similar in that it follows the shape of the dog around the edge of the card. But I've also added additional levels of offset and extra images from Cricut Design Space to make this a truly unique and bespoke card that your recipient will love. Let's see how to make it. Here's my Beaver Terrier, and then I'm also going to make my card front. So let's go into shapes and choose a square. I'm going to untake the padlock and make this 5 inches wide and 7 inches tall. So I'm doing a 5 by 7 inch card. And then let's just change the color of this. There we go. So my dog now needs to come to the front. So let's press Arrange, Center Front, and make it smaller. If I zoom in a bit, it'll be easier to see what I'm doing. And now I can start playing about with my offsets. So I'm going to give this one multiple offsets. So let's go to Offset. I'm going to change it to 0.15. It's being slow. There we go. That actually looks a little bit big still. Let's try 0.12. Press Apply. So that's my first offset. Let's make it a different color. And now I want to offset that offset layer. So with that green layer selected, go into Offset again and keeping it at the same number, which is 0.12, and pressing Apply. And then I'm going to do one more, which is going to be the actual outline of the card. So let's go Offset again with that black layer selected, and now I have that one. I'm going to make that another color. Let's go for yellow. For my dog, because this is going to end up quite small by the time I've resized it, I don't think it would be possible to cut it out as all the different layers from cardstock. I think it would just get way too small for the Cricut to do all these tiny details inside the leaves. So what I'm going to do is press Flatten. So I've got my group selected, and then press Flatten, and that's turned it into a print then cut image. So now it will print on my regular printer, and I think that will be a lot easier for the card. When I send it to the Cricut, it will cut around the outside of the dog, so we're still going to get that lovely dog shape, and I'm going to pop that up with foam pads on the final card to give it some depth. Next, I'm going to select all of the offset layers and the dog. So I've got the dog selected, and then press Shift on my keyboard and select the other dog layers, and then press Group. Now I can have a play with the size of this to get it where I want it to go. I want this near the bottom of the card, so I'm going to select everything by pressing Select All in the top, and then go Align, Align Right, and Align bottom, and that has positioned the card so that it's now lining up with this side and this bottom bit of the dog. Now I can start thinking about what other decorations I want to put in the top. So let's go into images and have a little look. I'm going to search for flowers. If you wanted to, you could choose another image to print then cut, but I want to just cut my flowers. So under Operation Type, I'm going to choose Cut Only, and then have a little look through. I think what I want is only one layer of flowers. So to make it easier to find something, I'm going to go into Layers and choose Single. Again, this is all completely up to you what you decide to put on there. So I'm just looking through and choosing a selection of different flowers that I might want to put along the top. It's handy to choose a few different ones. It's handy to choose a few different ones at this point so that once you've imported them, we can have a play and see which ones is going to work best, especially as we're cutting it out from cardstock. So you need to make sure that all the little pieces that you select are joined together in the images. Otherwise, once it cuts out from card, it'll all fall apart. Here are the 4 images that I have chosen to see which one works best. Now, as I just said, because this is cutting from card, all the little pieces in here are going to stay joined. So when my Cricut cuts out the gaps in the middle, the rest of the flowers will stay all joined together. So I'm just going to have a little play and see where I want these to go. Didn't mean to move the dog then. I'm just going to undo that. Okay, so I've joined these together. So now you can see it's just touching these 2 images, and that's going to make it easier for me in a minute. So with those selected, I'm not going to use these ones. I'm going to join those 2 flowers together by selecting both of the layers and then pressing weld. And now this is one layer where everything is joined. So what I'm going to do is drag a box around the dog and the card and group them together because the dog's already where I want it to go. And then the flowers, I'll need to go arrange, center front. Then I can press select all again and go align, align top, and align right. And now those flowers are perfectly aligned up along the side. Now I can start thinking about how I want to do the colors. So remember, this card is going to have different layers on it. It's going to have the base card, which will cut around the edge. And then I've got a black layer, a green layer, and then the dog. So I need to make my flowers so that they kind of match. You can play about until you find a technique that works best for you. But I think I'm going to make the top layer of flowers the green, which will actually probably be I was going to say white, but the dog is white. So let's have a think. Maybe that will be a pink, kind of to match the bow in the hair and the pink in the ears. So let's go for a pale pink, and then that layer will also be a pale pink. I'm then going to want my black layer, so let's go into offset and offset those flowers. If I have a look at this layer, it's got a couple of tiny gaps in that I don't want. So let's click that black layer, go into contour, and just take those gaps out. And then I'm going to do it once more to make that my yellow layer. And now that I've done that, you see it's now too big, so I need to select those 3 layers and group them. Make them a bit smaller, and then once again I need to select all and align, align top, align right. So hopefully now you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I'm going to ungroup the 2 groups that I've got, and now for each of my colours I'm going to weld those layers together. So I'm going to also have to ungroup this dog one. Then select the pink flowers and the pink dog layer and press weld to join them together. Do the same with the black layers and then the yellow layers. I now need to move these back into position so I can just drag and drop the layers. Remember that this yellow layer is actually going to form the colour of the base card. So now we need to start cutting things out. And if you've watched my other video on making these side edge cards, you'll know what's about to happen next. Just trying to get the whole thing into the shot. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go into shapes and choose a square and then position this anywhere I want to cut out to get that side edge. So all of this blue along here, and then all the blue down here, and then I'm thinking about where I want to cut it along the bottom. I need there to be enough straight edge that it's going to stay stable. So I think I'm actually just going to take it down to where the yellow hits the side. I'm going to weld those two green squares and then cut them out from my blue square using slice. And if this is going too quick, I highly recommend checking my other video, which is more of a beginner's guide to making these side edge cards. I go through all these steps a lot slower and in more detail. I don't need to keep the top right of the card, so I can get rid of that. And now I can select the blue layer and the yellow layer and weld them together. And now this is the base of my card, so let's just make it blue again. If I drag it down to the bottom in the layers panel, you can now see how this is going to look. I'm not actually going to cut this layer from black. I think I might do it the same red that's in the bow tie, although maybe I'll even switch it around and do it like that. I like how that's looking, and then my base card I will do from a white, but I'll just make it off grey in here so that you can still see the outline of it a little bit. In fact, as we're still going to be working with this layer, I'll leave it at blue so we can see. So this is going to be my card with all the different layers. So it'll print and cut the dog and then cut out this flower layer out of red and then the next one out of pink and then finally the card. So we need to also make the back of the card now. I'm going to hide the 3 layers that we don't need at this point. So let's group them together and then hide them. And then with the front of the card, press duplicate. I'll make this a different color so it's easier to see the difference. Go into flip and then flip horizontal. And this will be the back of the card. I'm also going to want to do an insert for the middle so that I can write on it easier. So for that, I'm also going to duplicate that front layer again and just hide that for now. With these 2 layers, I'm going to put them so that they just touch. So when I drag a box around them, my card should be 10 inches in width because that's 5 plus 5. So 5 inches for the front and 5 for the back. It's 9.986 at the moment. It's all right if it's a little bit less, but it must not be more than double the size of your card. Now it's exactly 10 inches, so I've got that spot on. I just need to go align top to make sure the top of the green and the blue are the same, and then press weld. This is the front and the back of my card joined together, so now I need to add a score line down the middle. Go into shapes and choose a score line and make it the height of your cards. Mine is 7 inches. Press select all and then go align, center. And that's put the score line exactly in the middle. Now I can press attach down at the bottom and join that score line to the card. Now let's do the insert. So turn that layer back on by pressing the I and drag it to the top. Make it a different color. And then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Now you'll notice when I did that, it now doesn't line up anymore. And I'm not really sure why when you make things smaller they don't line up with something bigger. It's very mathematical and just beyond my brain. So that actually isn't going to work. So let's undo that. Make it the same size again. There we go. And a different colour because white on white is hard to see. So instead, what I'm going to do is go to offset and drag the offset down into a negative number. It doesn't matter what you choose. Let's go minus 0.2 and then press apply. And then you can delete the big one. And then this will cut from a white piece of card. And I can stick it inside my card so that I've got something nice to write on that matches the shape of the card. Let's zoom out. I'm going to move that over to the side. There is a bug in Design Space at the moment where if you've got white on white, it doesn't always show you the edge. So I'm going to make it grey, but just remember when I cut it out that I want it to be done from white. All that's left to do is to turn on the dog layers by pressing the I, drag it to the top. I'm going to roughly put it back into place just to make sure I'm happy with everything, which I am. The base card, I think I'm going to actually cut it from a pale pink. I'm going to make this a very pink card. There we go. Right, so this is ready. I'm going to save it just so that I've got it in case anything happens, and then go ahead and print out the dog and cut out all the other layers, and then I'll show you how to put it together. Here are my layers all cut out, and then I've just laid them one on top of the other to check I'm happy with the layout and the colours. It's now time to stick all of this together. So let's have a look at what we've got. There's the base card, we've got our pink layer, the red layer with all the details on, and then the little dog that we printed and then cut with the Cricut, and it's done a lovely job around all these little pieces of fluff. So I think what I'm going to do is use a combination of foam pads and glue to add some depth to the design, but also make it easy by using glue for the flowers because they're quite narrow, so it'll be hard to get the foam in the right place. So I think I will start from the bottom. That's going to be easiest. So I'm going to glue this red layer onto the pink. Turn it upside down. My favourite glue for card making is called Collal. It's solvent glue, so use it in a ventilated area, but it's amazing because it dries perfectly clear, and best of all, it doesn't warp the paper like some glues can do. So, you know, some glues kind of make your card a little bit bubbly and it ruins it a little bit. This does not do that, so it's brilliant. If you're in the USA, then alternatives are art glitter glue or barely art glue, but in the UK, Collal is definitely my favourite. I put it into these needle tip bottles from Amazon, and they have a really thin nozzle on them, which means it's going to be really easy for me to put the glue into all of these little spaces. So let's give this a go. Just notice there's a little bit of middle of flower there that shouldn't have been there, so just get rid of that. And I'm going to put some glue into these tiny little flowers because I don't want them to accidentally get ripped off. If I didn't put any glue on these bits, then it would be quite easy to damage the card, either when it's coming in or out of the envelope, or just by sort of picking it up and looking at it. And after all the effort to make a lovely handmade card, the last thing you want is to make it easy to damage. So just putting my glue in here, and this bottle makes it so easy. There we are. Put the little lid back on so it doesn't dry up, and then I'll stick this right in the middle of the pink piece. I like glue as well because it means you've got that little bit of wiggle room if you need to move it about after you've stuck it on. But you could use double-sided tape if you want. It would just be a bit trickier to do all of the flowers. For the dog, I'm going to add a bit of dimension with some foam pads. Let's cut these in half so that I don't have to use as many. And then stick some to the back. The photo paper that I printed the dog onto is called koala paper. It's a glossy photo paper and I got that from Amazon. And then the foam pads, the brand name is Dot & Dab. And I like these because they're so easy to peel the tops off. Some foam pads you can be there for ages, but these ones come off nice and easily. And then I'm just going to stick that in the middle. There we are, and that is looking really nice with the dimension. Now for the card, you could either sort of just glue it on if you are trying to cut down on the bulkiness of the card for pasting, or you can use 3D foam pads to kind of pop it out one more level. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's get my foam pads back. You want to make sure that you kind of get the foam into all of the extremity pieces on your card, so all of the little offset areas. Can't think of the word. But all of the little bits where the card comes out. Just make sure you've got some foam in there so it gets a really good stick. And then I'm putting foam pads down the middle as well to stop it sagging under the weight of the other layers. And just get these tops off. And then stick this onto the card. Remember, we want that little line of the base card showing. I can stick that on there. And that's looking really pretty as it is, but I'm going to add a little bit of extra with these Nuvo glitter drops and crystal drops. So this is kind of like glitter glue, but it dries 3D, so it gives a really nice embellishment onto the cards. So I'm just going to add 3 drops of pink in the top. And for the clear one, this actually dries completely clear, so I'll be able to see the colours through. I'm going to use this just to add middles to the flowers. And of course you don't have to do this, it's just an extra little bit of 3D effect and a little bit of extra specialness. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. Alright, so now I'll need to let that dry and I'll probably leave it overnight. It does become touch dry in about an hour or maybe a couple of hours, but because I've added a lot on, especially to this flower, I want to make sure that it is completely dry so that I don't accidentally touch it and sort of dent it. But that is my card all ready and finished. One thing I have forgotten to do, which I now can't do because I put the glitter drops on, is to stick my insert in. So if I just quickly show it to you, here it is. I've just placed it in there for now. So what I need to do when my glitter drops are dry is just glue that into the inside. Oops. See, that has already kind of moved a bit where I opened it. Try and get it back into place. There we are. Okay, panic over. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make more advanced side edge cards in Cricut Design Space. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut craft and card making tutorials. Thank you for watching. Bye!